What if I told you there's one haunted house that people from every country have seen, but it doesn't exist on any map? Every country has roads that people refuse to travel after dark. Some are known for accidents, others for disappearances. But among thousands of stories collected over the last century, one detail appears again and again. At the end of those forgotten roads stands the exact same house. The reports come from different continents, different languages, different decades. Yet, every witness describes identical details: a black iron gate hanging open, a crooked chimney, 7 broken front steps, and a single upstairs window glowing with a faint yellow light. No government record identifies the property, no map includes it, satellite imagery never shows it. Yet every traveler who claims to have seen it insists on one impossible fact: they weren't looking for the house. The road simply appeared. Most witnesses say the same thing happened first. Their phone lost signal, their radio filled with static, their watch stopped. Then the air became strangely silent, as if the world itself had been muted. They always considered turning back, but every attempt ended the same way. The road behind them had disappeared. Only the house remained, waiting at the end. One of the earliest documented accounts came from 1927. A postal courier in northern England disappeared for 3 hours during a routine delivery. When he returned, he repeatedly asked investigators one question: "Did you hear the children singing?" The investigators searched the area immediately. They found no house, no road, no footprints, only the courier's bicycle, standing upright in an empty field. Similar cases soon appeared in Brazil, Japan, Canada, South Africa, and Argentina. Different people, different cultures, but every sketch drawn from memory produced the exact same building. Psychologists suggested mass hysteria. Historians blamed folklore. But neither explanation answered the most disturbing discovery. Every witness remembered walking through the front door, but none could remember what happened inside. They remembered opening the door. They remembered hearing footsteps upstairs. Then, nothing. Exactly 1 hour vanished from every survivor's memory. And whatever happened during that missing hour, none of them ever wanted to search for it again. The missing hour always begins the same way. Survivors remember stepping across the threshold and feeling the temperature drop so suddenly that every breath became visible. The front door closed behind them on its own, not with a slam, but with the quiet certainty of a lock that had been waiting to click shut. Dust floated through the air, yet nothing inside looked abandoned. Candles burned with fresh flames. A grandfather clock ticked softly. Somewhere upstairs, footsteps moved at the exact same pace as the visitor below. Then came the whispers. At first they sounded distant, impossible to understand. But with every step deeper into the house, the voices became clearer. They weren't strangers. They were people the visitors had known their entire lives. Some heard their mother calling their name. Others heard childhood friends, brothers, daughters, even loved ones who had died decades earlier. Every voice begged them to keep walking. At the end of every hallway waited a single wooden door. Survivors agreed on one impossible detail: no matter how large the house appeared outside, there was always only one room behind that door. Inside the room, they found themselves. Not a reflection, not a dream. Another version of themselves stood waiting in complete silence, staring back with empty, lifeless eyes. The double never spoke. It simply smiled. Slowly, unnaturally, wider than any human face should allow. Then, it raised one trembling finger and pointed toward the window. Outside the window, there was no forest, no road, no night sky. There were thousands of identical houses stretching endlessly into the darkness, each standing alone at the end of another forgotten road. And in front of every one of those houses stood another person, frozen, watching, waiting for someone else to arrive. That is where every survivor's memory ends. One impossible room, one impossible window, one impossible truth. Then, complete darkness. The next thing they remember is standing back on an ordinary road. Exactly 1 hour later, with the house nowhere to be found. Most people tried to forget what they had seen, but a handful couldn't. They spent years searching for answers, convinced the house was more than a hallucination. It was waiting, and it wanted to be found again. In 1983, a retired detective gathered testimonies from 47 survivors across 6 continents. They had never met. Yet every drawing they submitted matched down to the smallest detail, even the cracks in the front steps. Hidden among those files was one statement unlike the others. A woman claimed she remembered something from inside the missing hour. Just 3 words. Don't look upstairs. No explanation was included. She refused every interview after that day. 2 weeks later, her house was found abandoned. Her dinner was still warm. Her front door stood open. She was never seen again. The investigation took a darker turn when researchers compared the ages of every witness. They discovered something impossible. None of them had grown older during the missing hour. Their watches stopped. Their phones froze. Even mechanical clocks failed. One physicist proposed an unsettling theory. The house wasn't in a place. It was in a moment. A fragment of time, detached from the rest of the world, drifting endlessly until someone found the road leading to it. But another discovery shattered even that explanation. Every survivor had one thing in common long before they found the house. Weeks earlier, each of them dreamed about it. The dreams always ended the same way. Someone stood behind the upstairs window, waving slowly, as if they already knew the dreamer would eventually arrive. Survivors insisted the figure wasn't threatening. It was pleading, as though it desperately wanted to warn them, but could never leave the house itself. Then investigators noticed something they had somehow overlooked for decades. Every sketch of the house contained one extra figure, standing in the upstairs window, watching the road. And when those sketches were compared with photographs of the survivors, the face in the window was always their own. That discovery changed everything. The figure in the upstairs window wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a stranger. It was the visitor themselves. Somehow, every survivor had already been inside the house before they ever arrived. Researchers revisited every survivor one final time. Most refused to speak. A few had moved without leaving an address. 3 had vanished completely. The remaining witnesses all repeated the same sentence. It's still waiting. Months later, a recovered journal offered the only detailed account of the missing hour. Its final pages described climbing the staircase, despite every instinct screaming not to. At the top of the stairs, there wasn't a bedroom. There wasn't an attic. There was another front door, opening onto another road, leading to another identical house waiting in the distance. The journal claimed the road stretched forever. House after house, road after road, each occupied by someone standing at the window, desperately trying to warn the next traveler not to enter. According to the final entry, escape was never the reward. Every person who returned to the real world left something behind. A memory, a year of their life, or themselves. The writer believed the house needed witnesses. Every visitor became part of it. Every escape left behind another silent figure to wave from the upstairs window, hoping someone would finally understand the warning. No official investigation was ever completed. The evidence disappeared. The journals were archived. The witnesses stopped talking. Eventually, the world forgot the story. But forgotten stories have a way of finding new listeners. Perhaps that's why you're hearing it now. Maybe because somewhere, on a road you've never noticed, the fog is already beginning to gather. And if one day your GPS loses signal, your watch suddenly stops, and you find yourself standing before an old house at the end of a road that shouldn't exist, don't look at the upstairs window, because if someone there is waving, it may already be too late. They aren't trying to invite you inside. They're trying to tell you that you're the one who never truly left.